Morning, everybody. I'm very thrilled to be able to introduce our speaker today, Rev Patti, who, among many other things, over 21 years ago was my first formal encounter with the teachings of Jodo Shinshu, so this is very special for me. Rev Patti was born and raised in Toronto, Canada. Her first career involved trade, commerce, and economics with the Canadian government. As well as diplomatic residences in New York City and Quito, Ecuador, she taught for a number of years in Toronto and various places in Japan. Rev Patti was raised Christian and encountered the meaning of Jodo Shinshu while living in Japan. She lived and worked at the Honganji International Center and studied at the seminary Chuo-Bukyo Gakuin, apologies if I totally butchered that, in Kyoto, before completing an academic degree at the Institute of Buddhist Studies in Berkeley, California. She served as resident minister of the San Fernando Valley Honganji Buddhist Temple in the Los Angeles area until her retirement in 2020. She now resides in Ottawa, Canada. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Grady. Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. It's great to see you all. Well, I actually can't see you all, but I can imagine you all because I have spoken at MBT. And I sorely wish that I could be with you in person, but you know, stuff happens and I'll stay on my side of the border. You're welcome to come and visit. And anyway, I'll touch on maybe that today. But I am so grateful that we have Zoom. Ever since, I guess, COVID, we've all discovered how helpful it is. And in fact, I think that all temples have at least gone hybrid so that people can tune in from home or wherever they are or come to the temple. And thank you for the technology, for the technicians, for everyone who's making this service possible today. It's so exciting for me. As Grady said, Grady, my old Dharma friend, I didn't realize it was 21 years. Yeah, I got old too. But I mean, I don't mean you got old, I got old. But anyway, yeah, and you even have Marigold now. Wow. I can't wait to see her. Sorry, I'm so excited. Calm down. I'm grateful that we can still communicate from wherever we are. So with that, I'd like to do the opening reading, one that I hope you're familiar with, from Prince Shotoku, who we think of as the first big promoter of Buddhism in Japan back in the 6th century. And this is what he said way back then. So Gasho, please. Let us cease from wrath and refrain from angry looks, nor let us be resentful when others differ from us. For all beings have hearts, and each heart has its own leanings. Their right is our wrong, and our right is their wrong. We are not unquestionably sages, nor are they unquestionably fools. We are both simply ordinary beings. How can anyone lay down a rule by which to distinguish right from wrong? For we are all one with another, wise and foolish, like a ring which has no end. Namo Amida Butsu, Namandas, Namandas, Namandas. So, I hope you were thinking about those words as I read them. Even in the 6th century, they were having these kinds of issues, and human beings will have these issues, whether it's between two people or many people or a whole country or in fact the whole world nowadays that we're all interconnected. And unless you totally avoid doom scrolling or turning on your TV or however you get your news these days, I'm sure some thoughts have crossed your mind on one side or another, and in small ways or large ways, and things seem to be happening every day. And though I'm retired and I live up here in Ottawa, which is sort of closer to the St. Lawrence, and then the Great Lakes now. So I feel really remote, and I sit here with not too many Shin Buddhists around wondering, gee, I wonder what the ministers are saying these days. As Grady mentioned, I was in the United States for my entire ministry, but I think about my former colleagues, and I know that everybody is wondering, okay, what do we say about everything that's going on? But that's really not why I read the passage today. I think that we could go along with things like our right is their wrong, and their right is our wrong. But can we really refrain from our angry looks or thoughts? Can we really refrain from maybe feeling resentful or all of these negative feelings? These things arise. They're not. I know that we had our opening reading and the passage, which was by the Dalai Lama, and the passage which our current Gomonchu wrote a few years ago. And these are aspirational, and they are good things, of course, things that we want to aspire to. But can we really? This is the big question for us as Jodo Shinshu Buddhists. And so I want to focus on that one line that Prince Shotoku says, which is, we are both simply ordinary beings. We are ordinary beings. I don't know if you've heard the word bombu, and sometimes it's translated as foolish beings, but actually it simply means ordinary beings. Why? Because we are all ordinary beings. Everybody is imperfect. There's another word we use in our studies of Jodo Shinshu called akunin, which I guess literally translated as evil being, but not in the Christian sense. So evil in terms of being incapable of doing any practices that are going to enable you to become enlightened. So we're all these bombu, these akunin, these foolish, evil, or foolish, incompetent beings. And maybe you might argue, depending on who you're fighting with these days, whether it's your partner, your boss, your government, your whatever it is, whoever you're arguing with, you may say, oh yeah, but I know that I'm not perfect, but they're way, way, way worse. Because we have a tendency with our ego selves to think that way. But how can we prevent ourselves from feeling that aversion, that anger, resentment, all of those things that we list? So I want to ask you this. Why are you attending today, whether in person or whether you're Zooming in? Everybody has different reasons. It's the start of the new year, right? So some people make resolutions and say, I think I'm going to go to temple. I'm going to try and be more regular about it. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to learn to be a good Buddhist. Or maybe it's your habit. You like coming to the temple, and that's great. One of the great things about places of worship, so to speak, temples, churches, and so on, is that they are a community, and community is a great thing to have. So if you're Zooming in because you can't help it, that's great. But if you can really go, and you were just you wanted to sleep in this morning, maybe you would get a lot of benefit from going in person as well and greeting everybody and having that, Japanese people like to call it skinship with each other. Anyway, you might have different reasons. Maybe somebody in your family made you come, or you had to drive them there, so you came in anyway. Or I don't know if we have Dharma school kids today, but maybe your parents told you you had to come. Who knows? We don't know. Or you just think, well, I want to learn something. For whatever reason, I always say it's never what we think it's about. Sometimes somebody, your minister or whoever's speaking, says something that resonates with you, and it's because the causes and conditions are just right for you to hear it and it clicks. And other times, somebody could say exactly the same thing and it doesn't, it just goes whoop right over your head, or you're snoozing off or whatever. So we don't know what the upshot of our presence at a service is. I remember when I was a little girl, as Grady said, I was born and raised in Toronto, and my first generation Issei grandma was a member at Toronto Buddhist Church. And so just to be with her, I'd go with her to Fujinkai services, now called the BWA. They'd have a special service, and all of the ministers spoke Japanese. So I really didn't know what was going on because I'm third generation and I didn't know any Japanese. And I can just remember sitting through these services and probably in an obnoxious, loud little girl voice saying, "Grandma, when's this going to be over?" And finally, when the minister hit the daikin bong and started saying Namandab, Namandab, then I thought, okay, I think this has something to do with, well, beginning if it was the daikin, I guess, but when he, always a he in those days, said Namandab, Namandab, I knew it was over and that we could go downstairs to the basement and have all kinds of treats. And that was my encounter with being at the temple. So you never know, because it meant nothing. Well, I shouldn't say it meant nothing. It meant I got to be with my grandmother. And I suppose you could say the seeds were planted, but I don't know. And then fast forward, about 40 years, and I was in Japan and I encountered this wonderful teaching. By then I could understand Japanese fairly well. Then I found out, wow, it's the same teaching as at Toronto Buddhist Church, which is the same as at MBT. So you never know what it's all about or when it's going to actually, the light switch is actually going to go on for you. So the why are you here today? Maybe too, it's about how do I deal with all this stress that's happening in my life, whether it's personal or in a general sense. But we need to remember this. It's the lesson that we're giving is not about, can we always speak pure and beautiful words? No. Can we think pure and beautiful thoughts all the time? No. I mean, I can't. I don't know about you, but I think it's pretty difficult, especially when things are so volatile. But it's an opportunity for us to look at ourselves and say, wow, I still have work to do. So it's not about, I'm not going to say, hey, everybody, you should go out and join a protest or go out and help at the food bank or, all of these other things. Yes, if you are brought to do that, then do what you do and do your work on yourself to notice, what do I have to work on here? Am I selfish sometimes? Am I greedy? Do I have feelings of aversion and so on. And not to think, okay, I went out and did my good deed, that makes me a good Buddhist. It's not about that. Okay, and as far as being a Jodo Shin Buddhist goes, it's about looking inside. And as I said, everything that's going on around us is an opportunity for us to notice what's going on here. Instead of just stopping and saying, oh, I'm angry about this, or I'm put off about that, or oh, he's saying or doing a terrible thing, or she's just a rotten person, things like that. Don't stop there. Notice, wow, these thoughts are going on in my mind. So I think of it as this: we can't see the forest for the trees. The trees being all of these causes of our suffering, our craving, our anger, aversion, our self-centeredness, all of these individual events that are going on in our everyday lives. And then the forest is me within the interconnected web of life. So interdependent. So I'm not just this idea of individual me. I am part of great life. So, don't just stop at the criticism part. Remember when we tell the Dharma school kids, when you point at someone else, 3 fingers are pointing back at you, right? And so remember that part, that we still each have work to do. We might think, well, I don't know how I can cope with everything right now. Maybe you're in that situation, and it may be because of things going on in the greater world. It could be because of something happening in your life. But reflect on your life. We've all had stuff happen, right? John Lennon said, life is what's happening when you're busy making other plans. Think about your life. Look back at it. How often have your plans gone the way that you wanted? And were there times when something happened where it totally threw it off of its path? And there you went on another path. So, things can happen. You maybe don't pass a test, don't get a job, I don't know, get fired, COVID happens, everything shuts down, a loved one dies, you get a bad diagnosis, you lose all your money in the stock market. Who knows? Just countless things can happen that we never planned on, right? And yet, here you are. Here you are. Whether you're nice and cozy with your Dharma friends there in the Hondo, or whether you're nice and comfy at home with your cup of coffee off screen, and maybe you're still in your pajamas or what, it doesn't matter. Right now, in this very moment, we're fine. We're fine. Even as we have these thoughts that are not always pure and beautiful, still, just as we are, complete with our imperfections, here we are, we're fine. Why is that? Why is that? I think you know that we don't just do things on our own, that countless beings are there, countless events. This is great life. Reverend Suji, who was once the bishop of BCA, the BCA. He was Canadian, so I like reading his stuff too. No, I'm not biased because he was Canadian, but he liked to call this great life. Great life is immeasurable life. Where have you heard immeasurable life or infinite life? Infinite light, infinite life, or immeasurable light and life, immeasurable wisdom, light is wisdom. Immeasurable compassion. Compassion is life. We also call that Amida, right? So Amida is not a god or a deity. Amida is immeasurable wisdom and compassion of all life, and we're a part of it. So that immeasurable wisdom and compassion is sustaining each of us, regardless. We don't have to always speak pure and beautiful words or think good thoughts or protect. It would be nice if we could protect those who are weaker than ourselves. Oh, I really wish that so much these days. But I know that I'm incapable of doing things like that. Maybe, here and there, but not to the extent that we all hope for. Does that make me a bad person? No, I'm just an ordinary being. And then I realize, wow, life doesn't go according to my plan. Sometimes stuff happens that isn't what I wanted. And yet, so many causes and conditions and beings have helped me out to keep me moving forward. And every moment I have something to be grateful for. So if you got to the temple today, I checked your weather. It's very similar to ours in Ottawa, very windy. I guess that's why you're called the Windy City in Chicago. But I think around Lake Michigan there, it's pretty chilly. And yet there you are, safe and sound at the temple. You had a car or transportation or legs to walk on. I don't have a car up here. And yesterday I walked to the market and it was a little cold, but I just thought, wow, I hope I can walk for a long time because, when you get older, that's what you think about is your aches and pains and health. But I thought, wow, I'm so grateful that I'm in pretty good shape. We can think this is only the beginning of winter. Chicago's going to get its big dump of snow. I know it. We always have it here. But you can be pretty sure that if necessary, the snowplows are going to come from Toronto like they do just about every winter. We're going to get our freezing rain up here, and the electrical wires and all all those wires that are still above ground are going to get frozen and break, and people are going to have power failures. And we know that our friends from the power companies around the border are going to come up across the border and help like they do every year. Helpers are there. Always, in big ways and small. We hear about these things, but it could be as simple as somebody smiling at you when you're having a bad day. So great life is there for us always, even as we are imperfect beings. And I think that that's what Prince Shotoku was trying to get at here to remind us, even so many centuries ago. So, when we think about it, we are incapable of being Buddhas, of being awakened, following the practices, following all of the lessons that we learn. And it's important to hear those lessons so that we know what we're up against, right? To understand that all things change all the time. So I look at my white hair and I think, like white hair, but all things are constantly changing. I miss my Dharma friends in California as well, and all of you in the BCA. But situations change, and here I am. That's impermanence that I forget, just like that. Interdependence is a biggie that we forget. And then even the delusion that it's all about me, right? Even as we worry about others and the bad things that are happening to people all over the world, still don't we worry about ourselves as well? And And so that's just the human condition. When we realize it as Shin Buddhists, we think, wow, I'm so grateful. You know, we have to get into this habit of noticing, oh, okay, this happened, and I'm grateful that. So, for example, I don't have a car, and I'm grateful that I don't have to pay for high car insurance fees and parking and gas and everything else. And I'm grateful that I can walk, and I'm grateful that I got in my steps on my watch and all of those things, right? You can find the thing. And then when we realize our gratitude, don't we feel, wow, so empowered? We're empowered by other. That's other power. We're empowered by other. And so we put our hands together. And I was taught another one for when people say, why do we say Namo Amida Butsu? A simple one is my life and Amida's life, infinite life, are one together. So we put our hands together and say, Namo Amida Butsu, my life and Amida's life are one. I'm so grateful. And that's the thing that's really true in each of our lives. Everything else, good to learn and so on. But the best teacher is looking at the experience of your own life. And you could look back, you could look at the present and say, okay, what's tough for me now? And I'm grateful because. And so I think that was the important thing to help us find that equanimity if you feel that times are rough. Remember, in Shinran's time, same thing. People were being persecuted. People were starving. Bodies piling up in the streets of Kyoto. In any time during World War II, we know what happened. And my dad was in a camp here in Canada. Canada had camps too. And when I was young, I said, but that's so unfair. And he said, number one, life isn't fair, and everyone suffers during a war. And so, again, to take the spotlight off of self, notice what the helpers are doing for us, and great life is carrying us along. A nun who lived she was a Taiwanese nun who lived at the Honganji International Center when I was there, gave me a little plaque, and it says Daihi. It means great compassion. And in English it says, just go on. I just go on. But we forget so quickly. There was a Shin Buddhist at Kona Honganji in Hawaii who wrote poems, and I want to share this with you because I think this is a reflection of us. Embraced by true compassion, I vowed never to complain. Thinking thus, again I complained. Rubbing my eyes in the morning, I began complaining. Out jumped Namo Amida Butsu, and I really woke up. So, think about it. That's why we say it. You don't have to say it. You can have the feeling of it and that realization. And that's all the waking up we need to do. And that's going to empower us and help us to cope, to get through the rough waters. And it's not always going to be good, but we're going to feel that sense of gratitude and joy for life, such as it is. So I'd like to close with a reading from Shinran Shonin, please. I know nothing at all of good or evil, for if I could know thoroughly, as Amida Tathagata knows, that an act was good, then I would know good. If I could know thoroughly, as the Tathagata knows, that an act was evil, then I would know evil. But with a foolish being full of blind passions in this fleeting world, this burning house, All matters without exception are empty and false, totally without truth and sincerity. The Nembutsu alone is true and real. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida. And thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity to reflect along with you today. Thank you.